Good morning, gang. Happy Sunday morning. Okay, today we are going to do something a little different. It's still in lines with preparedness, but it's completely different than beans and rice or weapons or anything like that. This is more on your financial preparedness. And I wanted to bring you along for this because it's something that I do quarterly, but every January for sure is I try to map out what Mrs. P and I are going to do for the year to handle our income, okay? What we're going to do. It's different because certainly we are all different ages. We all have different income sources. We're all in different places in life. So, as always, there's no one size fits all. I just want to give you guys an idea of something to think about. By no means am I giving anybody financial advice here. Do not even think that. It's just something I want to kind of educate you on a little bit and make you think. All right. Now, y'all know me. One of my core values, if you will, is get out of debt. All right. The debtor is the slave to the lender. And y'all know this. I've said since the beginning of this channel, pay off your house, pay off your car, get out of debt. You'd be amazed how much easier life is when you're not stressing about paying the car payment or paying the mortgage payment, and you kind of look at the end of the paycheck and go, honey, there's still money here. What do we do with it? Okay. Now, this is something that my theory here, anybody can use and stay out of trouble, but still stay ahead of the game. And that's kind of the whole point with your money. Eventually it all comes to a point, whether by choice or by necessity, all of a sudden you don't work anymore. And so you still need to come up with an income source. Ask anybody that's on Social Security. Social Security does not cover your life expenses. It might, if you're eating ramen and stuff like that and you've got a small house there. But what I'm trying to do is get you ahead of the game a little bit so you can generate some income. And yeah, I know there's going to be people that say, I can't do this. I'm struggling to buy food, whatever. I get it. Okay, again, not everybody's in the same place. We as preppers talk about gold and silver all the time. Yes, I own a good amount of gold and silver. The problem with gold and silver's return, unless you sell it, is zero. Gold and silver doesn't pay you any interest. It doesn't give you any cash flow. If gold goes up, great, you sell it, you could make some money. If gold goes down, you sell it, oops, I lost some money. That happens. I'm not saying don't buy gold and silver. I believe for a SHTF situation, it is a crucial thing to have. It is going to be some sort of store of value. We all know the stories on buying a suit in 1920, buying a car in 1960, whatever it is, cost the same amount of gold then as it does now, right? I don't have to rehash all that sort of stuff with you. But what do you do with your daily income? How are you going to generate it? And no, I'm not talking about, as I've mentioned many times, you need a little bit of extra money. Hey, go to opinionoutpost.com, do some surveys, and maybe you can pick up yourself a few Amazon gift cards and get something like that. Yes, okay, there is that option. I'm talking about more of the, all right, how am I going to pay my bills, my electric bill, my phone bill, whatever, the things that for the most part are a little bit more difficult to be self-sufficient on. How am I going to do it without taking risk? Sure, I get it again. There's plenty of people who go, oh, gee, I'm going to put all my money in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's going to go to, I don't know, pick somebody. Robert Kiyosaki says 500,000 this year, I think, or something like that. Hey, great. You make 5 times your money. Wonderful. Problem is, Last, what was it, 2 weeks ago, Bitcoin was at 108,000. This week's at 93. Okay. Yeah, so you lost $15,000 in 2 weeks. Just say it. Okay. It's what I'm trying to avoid. So what we want to look at is fixed income, all right, where you can generate a consistent revenue source. Now, pretty much everybody is familiar with CDs, certificates of deposit. You guys are familiar with treasury bonds. There might be a few people on here who are familiar with municipal bonds. I'm not going to get into munis for the simple reason of, if you're buying munis, that means they're not federally taxable, but that's wonderful. You need to be at a pretty high tax rate for munis to make sense for you. All right, so I'm going to leave munis out. I'm certainly not in that tax bracket. So it's not something I put into my quiver. I told you last week, a few days ago at least, about what happened with job numbers, and all of a sudden the Fed got handcuffed, and now they're not expecting to drop interest rates at least until the summer. But if there's any direction long term that the Fed is looking at, what they are saying is there may be a cut, maybe two, in the future. So dropping interest rates. Again, we are not talking about borrowing here. Borrowing, you want lower interest rates. Savings, you want higher interest rates. Again, welcome to capitalism. Okay. You want to be the lender or you want to be the borrower? When you are buying CDs, buying bonds, buying anything like that, you are now the lender, not the borrower. Just so you understand that. Okay. You're lending your money to the bank, to the company, to whomever, the municipality, to the federal government, so they can spend it, so they will pay you interest in the future. Okay. And God knows our government certainly is a borrower. So I want to talk about this. If interest rates are going to stay at 4.25%, 4.5%, maybe drop to 4% this year, right? Okay, this is it. So there's your Fed funds rate. The banks, the government is going to pay you roughly around there. The problem we run into this year is, if you watched my New Year's Day video, is we're probably going to stay pretty much around a 4% inflation rate officially. Okay, so I just got an email from PBJ. She's like, "What the heck? Eggs are $4.85 a dozen at Aldi." Yeah. Okay. So we can talk about inflation all we want, right? They say 4%. The idea is to beat it, right? To make your money today still buy the same stuff as it bought last week, last month, last year, whatever. That's the challenge, to keep up, all right? To keep up with inflation. Where everybody says, "Oh, gee, I'm going to get rich." No, you're not going to get rich buying fixed income, all right? You're not going to catch lightning in a bottle. Sure, if you bought Amazon in 1998 or Bitcoin in 2011 or something like that, yeah, you're probably a billionaire right now and not watching me. For the rest of us, let's figure out how we can make it to the next day. So I want to show you this first chart, okay? And this is basically where the best, pretty close to what the best rates are out there for different CDs, for different bonds, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you guys know me. For the longest time, I've been telling everybody to stay on the short end, buying stuff that's less than a year out. Don't go out and buy yourself 20-year CDs or whatever. You're hurting yourself, okay? And you can see just on this chart, a 3-month CD is paying 4.3%. A 1-year CD is paying 4.5%. Okay? That, you get out 2 years is 4.6, 5 years is 4.6. That's good. If you can tie up your money for 2 years to 5 years, 4.6%, you're going to beat inflation by 0.6%. Just saying, okay? So you think about that. For every dollar that you or I'm sorry, every $100 that you have, you're going to make an extra 60 cents. Okay, just telling you. All right, a year. Not huge, but it's better than making an extra 30 cents, just saying. If you look at treasuries, okay, same thing here. Treasuries are pretty close to where the CD rates are. I mean, give or take a few basis points, not much. But again, we don't know what interest rates are going to do. I'm not interested in locking my money at 2%, at 4.6% for 5 years. I'm not even interested in locking it at 2 years. The 0.29% difference between 3 months and 2 years is huge. If interest rates go down, sure, you're better off at 2%, 4.6 on a 2 year. But if interest rates go up, now you've locked yourself into a lower interest rate. This is exactly what happened to the banks that went out of business last year. As interest rates went up, they had long-term stuff that was low, and it was all showing as a loss on the books. Because I'm going to give you this as a lesson again. There's an inverse relationship between price and yield. Okay, as yields go up, prices come down. As yields go down, prices go up. So the CD that you bought for $1,000, and they say, oh, you can't get out of it early. That's true. You'll pay a penalty. They're kind of hoping that you will get out of it early if the price goes up. Let's say it's now worth $1,050. They're going to charge you that $50, plus they don't have to pay you the interest. Just saying. Okay. Bonds a little different. You're still paying market rate, but you still get market rate, but you don't have a penalty for selling them. If you don't need the absolute insurance, I guess, if you will, on it, okay? Treasuries being AAA rated, okay? Insured, backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, wonderful. CDs backed by FDIC insurance, okay? So you are guaranteed to get out what you want. You could look at corporate bonds. AAA paper is insured. Okay, now you get AA, single A, that's still investment grade. We're not talking about junk bonds here, but there's a little bit more risk. This may be a company that's, doesn't have the world's greatest financial track record, or has an outlook that, maybe their products are being recalled, something like that. And yeah, you may get a little bit better return, but let's take a look at that again. Let's take a look at single A corporate paper at 4.68 for 2 years versus a CD versus 4.6. Not interested. Okay. So again, if you're looking at fixed income, CDs are a good bet. I would stay at 1 year or less. Just giving you that. That's my opinion. But now I want to give you a different idea. Okay, great. If 1 year CDs are paying 4.55 and inflation is at 4%, yippee. You're beating inflation by 0.55%, which is good. At least you're keeping up with inflation. But just saying. Let's take a look at something else. And this is things that people don't pay a whole lot of attention to in the age of mutual funds and all this sort of stuff. People don't understand this. If you go back, quite a few decades at this point, when mutual funds didn't exist, all right, it was, and just so you understand what a mutual fund is a basket of stocks, okay? Vanguard or Fidelity or whoever is buying 100, 1,000, whatever stocks, packaging it all in one thing and saying, okay, this is our Fidelity large growth value, large growth fund or whatever, pick something. We're looking at something that's going to pay us, that we're going to get interest. You can still buy individual stocks, and this is a big difference for even back 25 years ago when I was a broker. The nice part is, go to most of these online brokerage houses, you don't pay any commissions on it like you used to. It used to be very difficult to buy, you wanted to buy round lots, meaning a round lot is something 100, 200, 300, whatever. You didn't want to buy odd lots, which would be 62 or 107 or something like that, the amount of shares that you're buying. So you can do this without commission. That means if you've got $100, you can buy $100 worth of stock, not, I don't know, $50 worth of stock and have to pay $50 commission on it. Just making up numbers. It was never that bad, but if you're buying tiny amounts, yeah, it could get crazy like that. So why don't you go look at Warren Buffett type stocks? As those of you guys that are old enough to remember this, what used to be called widows and orphans stocks. Ones that you buy, you never get rid of. Same principle Warren Buffett had. Ones that are going to give you a good return for very little risk, and you don't have to worry about them. So I pulled up a list, show it to you here. These are the stocks with the highest dividend yields. Some of these companies you may be familiar with, some of them not. And again, I'll use the same Warren Buffett scenario. Buy companies you know. Go through your pantry and look at companies that, gee, I buy this product. Okay. Some of them, like I said, you'll be familiar with. You own products from others you've never heard of. Personally, I'd say stay away from the ones you've never heard of. There may be ones that you stay away from and you have heard of them, okay? But look at some of these on here. Walgreens, we've heard of that. Altria Group, if you guys know who that is, that's basically the cigarette version of Philip Morris, okay, if you will. So Marlboro's, that's what you got. Dow Chemical, Verizon, Pfizer. If you want to get in on that, go ahead. Okay. There's some that I won't touch that I know. Pfizer's a good one, all right? I'm not exactly a fan of. Ford, CVS, okay? Those are just ones off the top of my head that I think everybody know. But start looking at what those dividend yields are, what they're going to pay you. Walgreens, nearly 10.5%. And granted, this moves with the price, like I said before. Inverse relationship. But again, Altria Group 7.5, Dow 7, Verizon 6.75, Ford 6, okay, CVS 6. That's all a lot better than the CD rates that best you're going to get in a year is 4.5%. Okay, now if all of a sudden you're pulling 6. Well, that's 25% better. Pulling 7, now you're over 30, okay? If you want to buy Walgreens, gee, you've now more than doubled what you get in a CD. Those are things to look at. Do I like this company? Do I patronize this company? If you do, pay attention. Walk into a Walgreens, okay? If it's always dead, maybe that'll tell you something about it. Go look at the charts on some of these companies. Is the company in it? Because remember, buying a stock, you still have the potential for a downside or upside. Go look at the chart. Maybe it's a company like Walgreens that is on a downswing. That's the reason the yield's up. Maybe it's a company like Altria Group where it's on an upswing. And gee, not only are you getting a 7.5% dividend, but at least last year, the stock also increased 20%. Okay. Now, past performance is no guarantee of future results. The old brokerage standard. Could it go down 20% this year? Absolutely. Are you still going to get paid your dividend? Yes. Okay. Pick one. Full disclosure, and I'm not going to say which ones because I don't want anybody to say, oh, gee, that's the one I need to get. I do own some of these stocks on this list. Okay. No, this isn't some pump and dump idea. But I wanted to say that, yes, I do. Why? For exactly the reasons I am telling you, and what I'm looking at this morning is what Mrs. P and I may want to do going forward in 2025 based on the outlook that we all have for the economy. Just something to think about, maybe a little lesson for people to understand some of this. I wish the school system taught people this. They don't. Okay. You either learn it by experience, or in my case, because you worked in the industry or whatever. But something to question, something to look at. Do I want to increase my cash flow? Maybe I've got a CD coming due and I want to do something different with it. Maybe I'm getting a tax refund this year and I've got all my bills paid. Yes, that would be the first place to put your tax refund. Okay. Got all my bills paid. Gee, we could go buy more ammunition, or maybe we could figure out some way to start boosting our income. Because, I don't know, even if it boosts your income by $100 a year, for some people, that may be a month's electricity bill. Just saying, it's worthwhile learning this stuff. The younger you are, the better you are, because the other advantage you get is now you can start compounding this, and you'll be amazed how fast, especially when a company pays a quarterly dividend and you put it on a DRIP program, dividend reinvestment, and you end up buying a little more shares, a little more shares, a little more shares, a little more shares. Rule of 72, guys. Take your interest rate and divide it into 72. It's how many years it takes to double your money. Yeah, okay. So if I'm getting, say, 7%, that means 10 years worth of interest payments. It's paid off my entire investment. And now you have a cost basis of 0. And you're still making money. Just an idea, totally different, something to think about on a Sunday morning, especially the beginning of the year when everybody's trying to figure out what are my plans for this year. Have a great Sunday. Stay warm. Pinball out.